hats on, but we're not. I know. Sunday night, you were back there. You're moving forward.
Not by choice.
So we like this.
And on the other hand, condolences on your loss. We can get an awful lot of your friends on the Shabbat list. I'm rather that they stay on that one.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And we live
If I got Grandma Gross's genes, I got a fighting chance to make it to 97. My pension won't last anywhere near that long.
better start saving those shells.
Too late.
You're going to be rabbi for a long time.
How are we doing, back row? Guys are looking good. Nice to see you. It's been a while. Have they been behaving themselves?
Yes.
No, you didn't ask well. Or I expect you to say, why would they start now? Bert, why are you letting the Rebbitzin sit by herself? Rebbitzin, why are you letting Bert sit by himself? You like that we're going from zero to Jewish guilt without shifting into a higher gear? Now, let me check with the staff here. Hello, front row. Nobody sits in the front row. How daring.
We're strangers.
Welcome, Rabbi Gross.
I'm Lynn.
Good to see you, Bert.
Ine,
Matov,
Matov, Uma,
Thurman,
Sermon,
Sheverachim,
Sheverachim, Gam Yachad, Ine,
Matov,
Matov, Uma,
Naim,
Naim, Sheverachim, Sheverachim, Gam Yachad,
Ine Matov,
Uma,
Naim,
Naim,
Sheverachim,
Shevet Achim,
Gam Yachad,
Gam Yachad,
Ine Matov,
Matov,
Naim,
Naim,
deep in the heart
deep in the heart
of Texas,
of Texas,
for no particular purpose.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם
Louder and back, Charlie.
יחד.
הנה מה טוב
שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Well, almost Shabbat Shalom and welcome aboard, everyone. And we welcome as well those distance davening with us, following live stream from our congregational website, or maybe catching up to us recorded next week. Either way, we hope you made an opportunity to download a copy of our satellite Siddur to keep you in orbit, and you do follow along. Tonight is special because it is the last Friday of the month, and for that matter, the last Friday of the year, Torah Shabbat. We're going to have the Torah out this evening, and who's the lucky winner? Mitch Braun. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Hiding? Lost him in the crowd. Hiding in the, there we go. Hiding in plain sight. Is that your tallis? Waiting in the wings, ready to put on the uniform and get in the game. The Torah will be out. This is the last time this year to hear the Torah read. Show us your whoa face. Whoa. And in addition, I have to offer a preemptive, not regret, not apology, well, regret, yeah. Because I love coming here, being with our temple family, but we're going to have to miss you next week. The trustees, the directors of the congregation have been kind enough on behalf of the membership to give us the night off because Carol's going in for her shoulder surgery on Tuesday and won't be fit to travel by Friday and will really need me to do some post-op care. Everyone has been advising her for weeks, saying, oh, well, you should go to my orthopod in Naples. Or I know a really good guy in Miami. She's all lined up, thank you. However, while everyone has been encouraging her, I don't think she has very high expectations because for my birthday, she gave me this shirt. I want everyone to look at Carol and repeat after me. Confidence is high. Repeat. Confidence is high. So we'll miss you next week. That means we have to make the most of tonight. Let's open in our prayer books to page 124 and begin our Shabbat worship by reading in the middle of the page what we like to think of as our mission statement. Page 124, right in the middle, an aspiration that each of us, by virtue of coming in the room, offers as an affirmation and aspiration for everyone else. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. And welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to encourage. May the door of the synagogue be wide. May it be too high to admit complacency.
Selfishness, and harshness.
And as we turn back to page 121 for benching licht, our usher greeters have been gracious enough to offer a pre-op mitzvah to the Rebbitzin. Carol, front and center, while both of your shoulders still work au naturel. Page 121.
And here I thought it was an honor you with your diamond.
Oh, no, it's all about you, my darling.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad there's a match and not the other thing I can never get to
that's
her.
much easier.
Yeah. Ah. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal, right here, of the eternal law of goodness.
Don't set fire to our sheet, though.
I won't. Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Let's continue reading together.
Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need.
all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. I'm doing my left arm because I won't be able to. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad likner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר, להדליק נר של שבת.
Everyone turn to the person closest to you didn't come with and say Shabbat Shalom. Satellite Siddur, use following at home. You're in the middle of page 2. In-house, let's turn forward to page 142 as we offer a blessing to the Shabbat angels, a blessing of peace.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashait, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 144, Chatzi Kaddish, is a transition from these preliminaries into our evening service.
Yitgadal v'yitkadosh Shmei Rabbah Be'alma divrach yirutei Ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon U'v'chayir kol beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבם מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהלל ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשו בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו
Amen. We rise for the call to worship, page 146.
responsively. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Even as we rise out of respect when a judge enters a courtroom, when a king enters a throne room to hold court, so do we resume our seats once more as we turn the page and prepare for the recitation of the Shema. I invite everyone to ponder that this is really a meditative moment. Pages 148, 149, we have your choice of prayers pondering God's unknowability as the transcendent maker of all things, to wrap our heads around the idea of eternality. Before, on the cantor's cue, we turn the page and sing in celebration of God's immanence as our covenant partner.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamari Varavim.
Amen.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shokbeinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Geulah, page 157. Top of the page, let's read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe wherever we stood at Sinai's fall, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. There's always a better place, promised land, the winding way to that promise. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi khamoch ba'elim Adonai, mi khamoch nata b'kodesh, norat tehilot osei peleh, norat tehilot osei peleh. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי היום לפי משה. זה לי ענו ויאמרו, זה לי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פד אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. יא לה 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 לה, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
From the drama and power of the song of the sea to the serenity of a bedtime prayer on page 160. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu v'shomreinu l'chayim ufros elenu sukat shlomecha v'takneinu b'tzat avam l'fanecha v'oshienu l'man shemecha v'hagein ba'adenu. Down at the bottom of the page, right in the middle of the paragraph, invoke the inner child and imagine and remember how frightening the dark was as we ask God together to defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful, toward a coming and going to life and to peace and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel. Shelter of peace is wherever I am. O you people of Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai Abori Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Abori Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Abori Sukkot Shalom. Shalom Aleinu.
Shalom Aleinu.
Ve'alku Amu Yisrael. Smechu v'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat Yismechu v'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat Mekadoshi, Mekadoshi Shvi Shabbat Kulam yisbeu v'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat V'hashmi Ratzita bo kiddushto Shabbat Chemdat yamim Oto karata Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat V'korei onei Shabbat Zecher למעשה בראשית שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עוני שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עוני שבת.
We turn in our prayer books to page 164, and let us rise together for tefillah, the core of our worship service. And before we, at least symbolically, step apart from one another, let us begin by saying together as one in the words of the psalmist, Adonai sfatai tiftach ufiagid tilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Page 175. B'tzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ava tekaber u'tehil ratzon Tamid Avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha Baruch atah Adonai She'otecha levadecha v'yiranad
That was the Cantor's special request to honor the Rebbitzin, wrapping up our 10th year here. So that was for you. We come back together in song, we come back together in sweetness. And Stan Aliker, rank hath its privileges. The ushers tapped out the president of our congregation to introduce Kiddush for the last Friday night of the year. Page 123 in the prayer book for those who'd like to follow along the text. Satellite Siddur, you're in the middle of page 10.
The seventh day is consecrated to the eternal God. On Shabbat, eternal sign of creation, remember that we are created in the divine image. We therefore raise the cup of thanksgiving. Let us read together at the top of the page. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon enchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim ki banu bachata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Tovim leim barukim. Mr. Koch, young man, want to slide out front and be frontier moil?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
One of the milestones of my rabbinate was I served as a high holiday pulpit only in a small community in West Virginia that could no longer afford a rabbi full-time or even on a weekly basis or monthly basis, just Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And amongst the small membership, there was actually a woman named Minnie Horowitz. So all these years, making a motzi, if you've wondered, who is Minnie Horowitz? In 1974, she was an 82-year-old in Welch, West Virginia. Didn't make challah like Bob does, no. Barb, wait a minute. Barb. Beth, I get behind. Forget the regulars. We got visitors who haven't had island challah before.
Okay.
And for the sake of our visitors, because this is the one shul in town, one size fits all. So you've already noticed, regardless of where you're coming from, that we literally shift up and down the wavelength. We got a little chanting, a little reading, a little praying, a little silence, a little Orthodox, a little Reform, because we have to be something for everybody. And I figure in the course of the evening, there's something for everyone. So as many Reform congregations do, we occasionally bring out the Torah, and you got lucky last Friday of the month. This is the proverbial it. So with no further ado, we call forth, I think, who is passing out honors tonight? Well, there's a Freudian slip here because it says Tony Ann Allaker. Tony Ann Alter. Keith, it's a two-person job. Give her a hand. She's a magnificent woman, but even she can't handle this alone. Let us, with no further ado, rise to honor the Torah. Cantor, give us something festive.
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu.
Thank you. We can be seated once more. Now, when I got to the congregation, and it will be 10 years ago next week, even though I won't be here next week, 10 years, this is our 10th year at the congregation, I said, well, thank you. I got 2 more on contract, and then we assume we'll keep going on forever. One of the things that I noticed is that, well, we have the dilemma that in high season we'd have Shabbat Shachrit and have the Torah out, but since most of the year we're only here Friday night, I said then one Friday night a month, let's bring it out. And at this point, it's been 9.5 years, and everyone knows the last Friday is Torah Shabbat, and after 9.5 years, we have yet to have anyone bring in the red study chumash with you. So you'll have to trust me on the Torah. If in fact somebody brought it in and I didn't notice, you're on page 289, not in the prayer book. No, don't open it up, Linda. The red book. Not Cosmopolitan, not Ladies' Home Journal, but red book. A little 1960s magazine humor. Thank you for chuckling at that. See, the newbies and visitors haven't heard my corny dad jokes before. For those who are following along at home, you've got the Parashat Vayigash. We're jumping in right in the middle of chapter 46 of Genesis in verse 26. And for the Torah blessing, as already announced and already dressed for the occasion, warming up in the bullpen, Mitch Braun, front and center, young man. Our scenario, Joseph, prime minister and minister of food of Egypt, has invited his brothers to come join him in Egypt to bring their aged father Jacob, because the 7 lean years have, in the immortal words of the carpenters, is it, only just begun? So the family now meets. Jacob leaves the promised land. Yamor chaverenu hayakar,
Moshe Shimshon ben Mordechai David Alevi.
Moshe Shimon ben Mordechai David Halevi, and we're stopping in right there. Kol hanefesh.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Lam Olam Lo'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Li'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'na'asan lanu es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
I want you to hang on to this. Get ready to rewind in a hurry. Kol nefesh haba'a leYaakov Mitzrayima. All the souls that came with Egypt to Jacob. Yotzei Yericho milvad neshevene Yaakov. All those who issued from his loins, besides the wives of his sons. Kol nefesh shishim v'shesh. All and together were 66. Uvnei Yosef asher yulad lo b'Mitzrayim nefesh shnayim. As well as Joseph's 2 sons that were born to him in Egypt, with whom together it combined Kol Nefesh Levet Yaakov, Haba Mitzrayima, Shiva'im. So that the grand total of all those of his progeny of Jacob's household who came to Egypt were 70. Ve'et Yehuda shalach lefanav el Yosef, rohod lefanav Goshna. Vayavo'u arba artsa kna Goshen. He sent Judah before him to show the way to the land of Goshen, and so they arrived safely at Goshen. Vaye'esor Yosef merkabato. Joseph himself harnessed up his own chariot. Vaya'al likrat Yisrael aviv. And he came forth to greet his father Israel, Goshna, when they arrived in Goshen. Vayar elav vayipol al tzavarav, vayefk al tzavarav. Od. And upon seeing his father, he fell upon his shoulders and wept upon his shoulders. Even more.
Wow.
No, other direction.
That's what I thought. Yes. You were kind of pointing the other way.
Yeah, I mean, take it that way. I need to see up here.
There you go. Oh, you want me to pull this?
I'm telling
too?
you, cheap help.
No kidding.
Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, at which Israel, Jacob, said to Joseph, Amutta hapa'am achrei ra'oti et panecha. Now I can die content for having seen your face once more and to know that you are still alive.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Nasan Lanu Torah Emes V'chai Olam Nata B'sochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Here, in the presence of the sacred scroll, which is alike the symbol, the source, and the substance of our ancestral faith, we proclaim blessings for healing for members of our congregation and those precious to them who are unwell, even on this doubly sweet and joyous last Shabbat of the year with the Torah out. We name especially Leah Jacobson, Joan Thompson, Bert Posner, Roberta Schwartz, Jane Barron, Joan Blau, Shirley Posner, Larry Satcher, Beth Pavlau, Steve Roberts, Herb Wallach, Alan Zuckerman, Leo Wertheim, blessedly out of rehab and back home again, George Karpman, still in rehab, Stan Allaker, still healing up from his eye surgery. We're thinking good thoughts. You can read again, that's a good thing. Belle Finfer, as well as the kinfolk and friends of our congregants for whom our prayers have been asked. For John Vernon, Julie Fitzgerald, Susan Donahue, Margaret Gallivan, Marianne Mulligan, Linda Gagnon, Christy Raymond, Brandon Ben Sharon, Teddy Emerson, Ruza Footlick, Barbara Kretschmar, Mary Finistan, Pete Carochi, Paula McIver, Sander Footlick, Karen DeSessa, Jim McDonald, Alba McDonald, Marjorie Sarmiento, Bernie and Barbara Friedrich, Nan Needleman, Rick Wilkie, Elaine Meneman, Meir Ben Chava Fega, Paul Pieper, Ava Ben Lacava Hughes, Orlando Caceres, our custodian, back in the saddle as of next week, Virginia Footlick, Tom Boucher, and those whose names we call out to build our prayer list and add, please.
Herb Shapiro.
Melissa Hamilton.
The men and women of our armed forces injured in the line of duty and recovering both home and abroad.
Jay Jansen.
And those at home, you're not bashful about calling out the umpire on a bad call on the sports channels. Don't be bashful about calling out the name of someone you care about. And however virtually we receive it on this end, as with our cantor, we share this prayer for healing.
Strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Otenu mikol habracha Otenu, bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Well, the altars, I'm going to ask to make the sacrifice here because you guys already got a COVID since I drafted you. I'm going to draft the folks in the front row to punish them for sitting in front, to reward them for the moral courtesy. I guess if you'd honor us by coming forth for Hagba and Glila. And you're a righty or a lefty? Okay, good, in which case, you do the gentlemanly gesture. You take this side of the scroll and just write it on this side, if you would, Manady. Right hand at the bottom, left hand at the top. Left hand at the bottom, right hand at the top. Right hand at the top, and right hand at the top. Yeah, reach on up, make it high. Don't bump the microphone.
B'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishachavo lehar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishachavo lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
Thank you. We can all be seated once more. I'm going crazy. Who's trying to figure, who's our Mr. Tambourine Man tonight? Who else in the jingle jangle morning? Well, I already showed you the shirt. That's Carol's anticipation that she's not going to be happy next week, that I'm going to put up with her. I've been adoring her for 51 years. I'm not stopping now. That's next week. So again, we'll miss you all next week. Hope to see everyone for Torah study tomorrow. במיוחד את, כבוד גברתי, מתגעגעים לך. שיעור חשוב מאוד, מדי מעניין. This week, that's next week, this week, we have just read, and I hope you noticed it and didn't let it slip by as something quotidian, pedestrian, or any other way, shape, or form, routine. We have just read the drama of our Israelite ancestors' arrival in Egypt. And you say, yeah, well, we'll be at Passover in a couple months and they'll leave. Yeah. I'd like everyone to consider things from Jacob's point of view. Yaakov Avinu, the patriarch and founder of the nation of Israel, who gives us the spirit name, Yisrael, the God wrestler. From his viewpoint, God promised Abraham and Sarah's descendants, Isaac and Sarah and Rebekah's descendants, Jacob and Rachel and Leah's descendants, and Bilhah's and Zilpah's, this promised land, the land of Canaan. And thus far, Abraham was too smart to show up at 75 with a 65-year-old wife and notify the 7 nations, the Canaanites, you can leave, how I'm here, God gave me title. They would have either laughed or killed him, or both. By Jacob's time, we have hard-won fragments, a foothold of title to that land. The tomb cave that Abraham bought at exorbitant rate from the Hittites to bury Sarah. And we did our Saturday morning Torah study on how, historically, the cemetery is what anchors a Jewish community. We have the well and pasture that Isaac secured from the Philistines by treaty at Beersheba, the well of the oath. We have the city of Shechem that Jacob himself first purchased and then captured in war from the Amorites who lived there. So finally, with a foothold and some legitimate claim and title to the promised land, now he and his children are walking away from their legacy. And I know what you're thinking, Sunday school Bible stories. There are 7 lean years. Couldn't Joseph be Amazon? Couldn't he ship them the food they need so they can remain in the promised land? But having thought for 20 years that Joseph was eaten by a wild animal, Jacob is anxious to see him. And at age 130, he's willing to undertake the arduous journey to Egypt, even if it's one way. And you heard his last words that we just read. Now I can die, having seen you with my own eyes and knowing at last that you are in fact still alive. A loving father. And yet, on the other hand, as he and his 12 children and his numerous grandchildren are about to leave the promised land, the last night on their own turf in Beersheba, tomorrow they cross the border, they're out of Canaan and in Egypt. God comes to him in a dream and says, Al tira avdi Yaakov, fear not, my servant Jacob. For I'm with you. I can make you a great and mighty nation in Egypt too. I'm the Ein Sof. Remember, God is international. God has no boundaries. God told Abraham in Haran, leave here and go to the place that I tell you of, and I'll meet you there, which was inconceivable in the ancient world. How often on Shabbat morning have we studied and talked about the locative deity, the God here as opposed to the God there? Abraham discovered monotheism, the idea that God is without boundaries, and yet here is Jacob, viscerally, in the Kishkas, about to cross the frontier and leave the land and wonder if God will still be with him. So God tells him, don't worry, boychik, I'll be with you, I'll bless you, I'll make you a great and mighty nation in Egypt too. I can still do that. And yet in the cold light of dawn, was it a true revelation and a reassurance? Or as my wife, the mental health professional, would ask, was it just wishful thinking on Jacob's part? Come back next week, whether I'm here or not. Open the Torah and find that his fears are well-founded. They left for the 7 lean years, but he's now dying 17 years later, still a pensioner to his children in a foreign land. Heartbroken at the thought that his kids have given up the dream. My friends, listening to this little piece of text tonight, Jacob and the 70 souls directly descended from him, plus all the grandchildren and the daughters-in-law, all arrive in Egypt. Our own fears kick in here listening to the story, because forget Passover, that doesn't exist yet. We know how this will play out. With slavery, half genocide, all the males slaughtered at birth, thrown in the river. In slavery, suffering, and death. And come tomorrow morning, 9:30, other end of the building, we're going to explore the roots, the taproot of global anti-Semitism starts in Egypt with the Egyptians. So remember this passage at Passover, when the Maggid, the narrative portion, anthologizes from Deuteronomy 26, Vayered Mitzrayima vayagor sham bimatei ma'at. Our forebears went down to Egypt, few in number, 70 in the family. Vayhi sham legoy gadol atzum v'rav, and there they became a great and mighty nation. That sets the stage for the eventual redemption in the fullness of time. What do we say at the Passover Seder in the Maggid? Had God not brought our forebears up out of Egypt, and as far as we know, we, our children and our grandchildren, would still be slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, had God not broken that cycle, which is nice. And if you think about it, tonight's narrative suddenly becomes all the more important. We had to be there in order to be eventually enslaved there, for God's intervention eventually to break the cycle. We learned, we Israelites, whom I described at the Catholic University earlier in the month, praised and described in Nostra Aetate, the great Vatican Declaration of 1965, Stirpes Abrae, the stock of Abraham, eyewitnesses to the glory of God. We are eyewitnesses through our personal experience in Egypt to the vast, sweeping, and convoluted mechanism of God's great purposes being fulfilled. British poet William Cowper wrote in 1773, God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. But Abraham knew. Brit ben Abatarim. At the great covenant between the parts, these carcasses cut in half. Abraham's 90. He's been there 15 years. He's getting feisty. You told me I'd be a great and mighty nation. I still don't have any kids. I want to know for sure. So God makes him sweat all day long. And finally, as Abraham is about to pass out toward sunset, God says in a vision, you want to know for sure? I'll tell you for sure. Your descendants will be slaves for 400 years in a foreign land. And I will, when it's the right time, judge the nation that oppressed them and bring them out with great wealth. But the sin of the Amorite is not yet complete. On this day after Christmas, the glorious feast of the Nativity, the second most important holy day for our Christian neighbors, we ponder the fact that nativity is only the foreshadowing of crucifixion and resurrection. That's why the holly wreath is on the door for Christmas. It's the crown of thorns with drops of blood. It's full circle as a purpose of God's purposes being fulfilled, working in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. God told Abraham, buckle down for the long ride, Boychik. And we're never told in Torah, did Abraham tell that to his son Isaac? Hey, the good news is you get the covenant. You get to be the bearer of the name, and you get to have the promised land. The bad news is not for another 400-something years. Did Isaac tell Jacob? Did he know, leaving for Egypt in this passage we just read, he can indeed die, knowing that His purpose has been to engender the nation of Israel and to transplant them to Egypt, to be on hold, on the sidelines of history, until the 7 nations of the Canaanites build up a critical mass of corruption that the land will vomit them out, and it will finally be our turn. We don't know if Abraham told Isaac. We don't know if Isaac told Jacob, but it doesn't matter. Because we now, at this end of Jewish history, got the inside track looking back at the other. Back to the Passover Haggadah. The day after Christmas, we're doing Pesach. How's that for progressive Judaism? The Maggid says, Baruch Shomer Haftachato. Blessed be the one who keeps his promises to Israel. Baruch Hu. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Chishev et haketz. Because the Holy and Blessed One computed the end of our suffering and foretold to Abraham to the year when our suffering and our marginalization would end and go forth to our glory. My dear friends, from the experience of our forebears having been rootless and landless in Canaan, nomads that left Haran, semi-landless in Canaan, and then going on to being on the sidelines of history for 400 years in Egypt, we are conditioned to see the hand of God in human history as meaning of transcendent importance even in our perplexity and our pain. We are conditioned to see events unfolding not on our timetable, but in God's own good time, granting us the courage to endure challenging times like the present. We are conditioned to loyalty in duty to our covenant partner, as will for us collectively to survive beyond any one moment, however traumatic. We survived 2 destructions of Jerusalem, the Black Death, 8 Crusades, the Chmelnytsky massacre in Ukraine, the Hitler massacre in Europe, and Stalinist massacre in the Soviet Union. And as Sue can vouch, and as Bert can vouch, having traveled in Israel with me, we say, look around at our history which is still alive, and when was the last time you met a Roman? We are conditioned to unity, a shared identity as B'nai Yisrael, not because we were annealed together in the crucible of suffering, not because the Egyptians saw us all as a threat, but because that is how our father Jacob / Israel made us. Ponder the dilemma, the dynamic, the beauty of it. Was little kids, we learn in school about Joseph and his brothers, but they weren't his brothers. They were his half-brothers by 3 other moms. And 6 plus 2 halves of them, Leah was their mom. And yet in referring to Joseph's aunt Leah, Jacob calls her your mother. Will your brothers and your mother come and bow down to you? I love the numerous painful occasions over the years, half a century in the rabbinate, planning funeral farewells for people who've died, and meeting with their families to talk about relationships and the ceremony and what they'd like said and done that would be helpful to them. And I love the painful privilege of the number of times that blended families in divorce and remarriage. The adult kid said, she never called me her daughter-in-law. I was always her daughter. That is the unity of Israel. When Jacob calls Leah your mother, not your aunt, he refers to his half-sibs as your brothers, regardless of who their mother is. That is who Jacob made us to be. The Shiv'im Nefesh, the 70 souls that came down to Egypt, is one family. Its unity being the seed crystal of Jewish life that unifies us for all time. So that Federation's fundraising slogan, "We are one," isn't just a slogan, it's tachlis, it's who we are. So I know Hanukkah's been over for a couple days, but why a dreidel? Why the dreidel? Because of the portion we just read in the Torah. That was the clue. This is a classic Litvak Midrash from those Lithuanian Talmud students. Because we just read that Jacob bringing the family into Egypt, Et Yehuda shalach lefanav el Yosef lehorot lo Goshna. He sent Judah on ahead to show him the way, Goshna, to Goshen. And what are the four letters in the word Goshna? Gimel, Shin, Nun, Hey. We spin a dreidel to remember that it's at this time of year we read the story of how Jacob and his family went down to Egypt. And Judah, the leader, Judah the Maccabee for Hanukkah, Judah, the fourth son of Jacob in our Torah portion, went to show the way. It is Judah who shows the way to Egypt. It is Judah who leads the family. It is Judah who becomes the leader of the nation of Israel. It is Judah whose dominance as a tribe makes all of us known as Jews. On this Shabbat after Hanukkah, we Jews, descendants of Judah as well as of Jacob, all of us show the way to Goshen, away from the promised land, perhaps for the moment, but trudging one step at a time onward in faith towards whatever shared destiny God has in mind for all of us in the fullness of God's own time. Shabbat Shalom. We'll miss you next week, but we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. I'm Stan Alliker, President of the congregation, with greetings from our Board of Directors and a few announcements. I welcome visitors worshiping with us tonight, and I invite you to stay on hand for the Oneg Shabbat following services. Tonight's Oneg was coordinated by Mitch Braun, Bob Jarez, Sandra Heckler, Adele Oppenheim, Phyllis Rosenblum, Robin Singer, and Lynn Wilk. Our lovely flowers are sponsored by Stephen and Carol Roberts in memory of Gertrude Roberts, Stephen's mother. Current details of everything going on in congregational life can be found on our website, in our monthly newsletter, The Messenger, and in the semi-weekly email notifications we send out to membership. But tonight, I remind everyone, as the Rabbi has told us, he will be absent from the pulpit next Friday at home attending to Carol following her shoulder surgery. We're wishing Carol a full and speedy recovery, and we look forward to welcoming the Rabbi and Carol back on January 9th for a belated Happy New Year with her JCMI family. Please note there is a date change if you have already purchased tickets for the Bee Gees concert. It will be on Saturday, March 14th at 7:30, not March 21st. Join us Sunday, January 11th at 7:30 for Turnstiles, the Ultimate Billy Joel concert. You can purchase tickets for all the shows at jcmimusic.com. The next film for the film festival will be Sunday, January 18th at 2 p.m. You can also buy tickets at jcmimusic.com or at the door. And Esther, did you want to say anything about the movie? Nope? Okay. Next month's Women's Book Club will meet on Tuesday, January 20th at 11 a.m. The book of the month is In My Father's Court, the Classic Edition by Isaac Bashevis Singer. You can find flyers around the building. Monday night bingo, doors open at 5 p.m. Chess Club is meeting every Tuesday from 9:30 to 12 p.m. Please contact Irv Pavlov. The office is selling Memorial Yahrzeit candles. Do not forget to bring in food for those in the community less fortunate when you come on Fridays, or leave a donation in the tzedakah box, and I thank you for that. And now, as we move to the conclusion of tonight's service, I invite to the Bima our final honorees, the Weinberg family. Let us please reopen our prayer books to page 586 and rise together for Elena.
And next week at that lectern will be Mitch Braun.
I want to point out as well, Carol and I have taken the liberty of enhancing the oneg put together by our committee tonight to honor our temple family on the conclusion of our 10th year. We're calling it our 10-centennial. And we're happy to be here.
We're also forgetting something else tonight.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
The Vice President is busting my chops to point out that today's also my birthday, 75. So we did get the champagne to honor you, but in my honor, we got the good stuff. Now, summer camp was round the table. You must go. Our Kaddish prayer on page 598 is a tribute on this Shabbat to Henry Berner, whose families observe the sweetness of this Shabbat as a hiatus in the bitter week of Shiva. To our dear friend Wendy Bakarski, seminary classmate taken from our midst 10 days ago, for whom last Shabbat was the week of Shiva. And Nuno Gomez Lorera, the pro-Israel professor at MIT who was gunned down in his own home, as well as the victims who have been named thus far in the Bondi Beach shooting in Sydney: Matilda B. Brit Van Dan El Kayam, Alex Kleitman, Richard Lerner, Rabbi Yaakov Levitan, Peter Meager, Reuven Morrison, Marika Pogany, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, Adam Smith, Boris Petlarod, Tanya Tretlock, and Tibor Weitzen, all of whose families observe yet still the month of Shloshim. We name as well these the anniversaries of whose deaths were observed during the week now ending: Aaron Alparovitz, Gussie Alpert, Harry Alpert, Jack Burnett, Marvin Calvin, my Aunt Joyce May Engels, Rose Foreman, Gertrude Goldberg, Harris Grossman, Samuel Haber, Edna Hollander, Max Lachman, Jack Lerner, Lenore Tender Levine, Gertrude Roberts, Margot Rose, Abraham Shemansky, Craig Schiffer, Sorley Scheinberg, Herman Sonnenberg, Rose Stein, Raymond Thompson, Ira Tritt, and Irma Wertheim. Anyone have Avelut or Yahrzeit in addition? Eric Wolfson. Zichronam Ivracha. May remembering them be a blessing. As for them and because of them we together extol God's name. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yilutei v'yam nichmal chutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'hagala v'yizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach lelom ol mei ol maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei de kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kal birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shamayim, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, u'yah oseh shalom. Amen. Israel v'imnu. May the maker of peace on high make peace for us, for all Israel, and for those who mourn. And let us say. All right, we're on page 625. And although it's, again, progressive Judaism, it's a trifle early. Since it is our last Shabbat of the year, the cantor thought we should get thematic with the melody. Did you get a key in this? Adon
Olam Asher malach b'terem kol Yitzir nivro Le'ed nasa b'cherzo kol azay melech Shemo nivro
Be'acharei kichlot hakol Levado yimloch noro Ve'hu haya ve'hu hove ve'hu yeh. Skip a verse.
Ve'hu eli b'chai goli Sorchev li be'et tzara Ve'hu nisi umanos li menat kosi B'yom ekra Ve'hu nisi
Afki bruchi be'et ishan
Ve'ayiro
Big finish.
Ve'im ruchi giviyati Adonai li velo ira.
You remember the person that turned to you earlier and said Shabbat Shalom? Say it back. Thank you, cousin. Thank you. We'll see you next year. Yes, you can.
I am counting on it.
Great fun. Since I was on my way over here, we did the birthday a day early since everyone had Christmas off. And Carol figured 75 candles are going to burn the house down. So we got a 7 and a 5. I blew them out and handed the 1 to the 7th grader and the 1 to the 5-year-old. Made a good picture. What do I know in Charlotte?
I am so
At the, just what we do every week.